A war hero cursed by a god, stranded at sea, facing deadly monsters, seductive witches, and even the horrors of the underworld, just to see his wife and son again. This is not a fairy tale. This is the Odyssey, one of the oldest and most intense survival stories ever told. You'll meet giants who eat men alive, a sorceress who turns soldiers into pigs, and a sea so cruel it swallows hope. Watch as Odysseus defies fate, challenges the divine, and claws his way home. Stick around for the wild truth behind this epic. And if you love mythology, hit subscribe now. To understand the Odyssey, we have to begin with the man who gave it life. His name was Homer, or at least that's what history tells us. He lived in ancient Greece, possibly around the 8th century BCE, and yet he remains as much a mystery as the stories he created. Some say he was blind. Others argue he might not have been a single person at all, but rather a name given to a collection of storytellers. What we do know is that whoever Homer was, he crafted words with such power that they survived thousands of years, carried by voice before they were ever written down. Back then, poetry was not meant to be read. It was meant to be heard, passed from one generation to the next, memorized line by line, performed in halls and gatherings where listeners would sit in awe. This was the age of the oral tradition. It was the original form of mass media. There were no books, no screens, no written scripts. Just the human voice painting worlds of gods, heroes, and monsters into the minds of those who listened. Homer's two great epics, the Iliad and the Odyssey, were the Netflix and the Hollywood blockbusters of their time. The Iliad told the story of the Trojan War and the wrath of Achilles. But the Odyssey took a different path. It was not about a battle, but about what came after. About a man trying to return home from war, only to find the gods had other plans. It was about loss, love, pain, temptation, and the strength of human will. What made Homer's work so remarkable was the way he blended myth and memory. He did not just tell stories about heroes. He gave them depth, fear, flaws, and moments of vulnerability. Odysseus was not perfect. He was cunning, proud, clever, and sometimes selfish. But that's what made him real. Homer gave the world a new kind of hero. Not a god in armor, but a man fighting his way through chaos, using his mind as much as his sword. The Odyssey is more than just a tale of one man's journey. It is a reflection of what it means to be human. It is about what we face when the world becomes unfamiliar, when home feels far away, when everything is against us and we are forced to keep going. That is why, even now, centuries later, people still read it, adapt it into films, quote it in classrooms, and find something of themselves in it. Homer's epic set the foundation for Western storytelling. The idea of a journey, of trials that shape a character, of monsters that test us and mentors that guide us, all trace back to this ancient poem. Every modern adventure, from The Lord of the Rings to Star Wars, owes something to the Odyssey. But perhaps the most powerful thing about Homer's creation is that it survived, carried by voices across centuries, written down eventually, preserved by scribes, translated into dozens of languages, and now performed again on screens and speakers in every corner of the world. As we step into the next part of the story, remember this: the Odyssey was never meant to be just read. It was meant to be heard, to be felt, to be lived. So let's keep going. Odysseus is about to leave the ruins of Troy. The winds are rising. The gods are watching. And the real journey is just beginning. As the fires of Troy faded into smoke and rubble, the victors began their long journeys home. Among them was a man who had not won the war with brute strength, but with his brilliant mind. His name was Odysseus, king of Ithaca, a small rocky island in the Ionian Sea. He was not the mightiest warrior on the battlefield, not the tallest, nor the most fearsome. But when it came to strategy, cleverness, and persuasion, none could rival him. Odysseus had been one of the key players in the Trojan War, a brutal conflict that lasted 10 years. He had fought alongside legends like Achilles and Agamemnon, and had suffered through loss after loss. But his greatest moment in that war came not from a sword, but from an idea. It was Odysseus who devised the plan of the Trojan horse, the hollow wooden statue filled with soldiers that was presented as a gift to the enemy. The Trojans, believing the war was over and the Greeks had retreated, accepted the horse into their gates. That night, as they slept, Greek warriors climbed out from within and opened the city's gates. Troy fell not through force, but through trickery. And it was Odysseus who had outwitted them all. For that, he was hailed as a genius, a man guided by wisdom and charm. But Odysseus had another side to him as well, a side that would become his undoing. He was proud, not the quiet, noble kind of pride, but a sharp-edged pride that often made him careless. He knew he was clever, and he let the world know it. This flaw, his hubris, would cost him dearly. As he set sail for home, Odysseus believed the gods would honor his role in the war. After all, had he not helped end it? Had he not shown his brilliance in service of the Greeks? But the gods are not so easily impressed. And pride, especially when aimed toward the heavens, has a way of drawing their wrath. One god in particular was deeply offended by Odysseus. Poseidon, ruler of the seas and earthquakes, had taken a special dislike to him. The reasons for this would unfold in time, but from the very start of his journey, Poseidon saw to it that Odysseus's path home would be anything but easy. Odysseus's pride did not just offend the gods. It also blinded him in critical moments. He often chose the cleverest solution rather than the safest. He spoke when he should have stayed silent. He revealed his name when anonymity could have saved him. These decisions, born from a desire to be remembered, turned minor challenges into impossible odds. Yet despite his flaws, Odysseus remains one of the most fascinating heroes in all mythology. He was not a perfect man. That is exactly what makes his story so powerful. He was deeply human, intelligent, witty, brave, but also arrogant, impatient, and sometimes cruel. We admire his cleverness, but we also see ourselves in his missteps. As his ship left the shores of Troy, the ocean seemed calm. His men believed they would be home in weeks. But the gods were already watching, testing, waiting. Ahead lay lands unknown, monsters unseen, temptations beyond mortal strength, and trials that would strip away everything but his will to return. This is not just a journey through distant lands. It is a journey into the heart of a man, tested by gods and fate. In the chapters ahead, Odysseus will face things no soldier could prepare for. But it all begins with a single choice, a path taken, a name shouted when silence would have saved him. And with that, the true Odyssey begins. The sea stretched out before Odysseus like a mirror, calm and glittering under the sun. His men rowed with hope in their hearts, believing that home was close. But the ocean is not just water and waves. It is ruled by a god who holds grudges longer than mortals live. Poseidon, lord of the deep, was watching, and he had already decided that Odysseus's journey would become a legend of suffering. The turning point came on a desolate island where Odysseus and his men, hungry and desperate, stumbled upon a giant cave filled with food. Cheeses, milk, and livestock were spread across the space. The crew urged their leader to take what they needed and leave before the owner returned. But Odysseus, driven by curiosity and perhaps that deep hunger for fame, decided to wait. He wanted to meet the master of the cave. He wanted a story worth telling. When the Cyclops returned, towering and brutal, it was clear that this was no ordinary giant. This was Polyphemus, the son of Poseidon himself. He was not hospitable. He was savage. He blocked the cave with a massive stone and began to eat the men one by one. Trapped and terrified, Odysseus devised a plan. Using wine to dull the creature's senses, he told Polyphemus his name was Nobody. Then, while the giant slept, Odysseus and his men heated a sharpened wooden stake and drove it into the Cyclops' single eye. The giant roared in agony, thrashing and calling for help. But when other Cyclopes asked who was hurting him, he screamed, "Nobody is attacking me." So they left him alone. It was clever. It was survival, but it came at a cost. As they escaped, clinging to the undersides of the Cyclops' sheep, Odysseus made a fatal mistake. He could not resist revealing his true name. From the safety of his ship, he shouted back to the blinded giant, "Tell them it was Odysseus who did this. Odysseus of Ithaca." That single act of pride sealed his fate. Polyphemus, bleeding and enraged, raised his arms to the sky and called upon his father. "Poseidon," he cried, "hear me. Curse this man. Make sure he never reaches home. Or if he does, let it take many years. Let him lose all his men. Let him return a broken man to a broken home." Poseidon heard, and he listened. From that moment, the ocean turned against Odysseus. Storms struck without warning. Winds pulled his ship in every direction but home. Each time he reached ashore, new trials awaited. The god of the sea was patient, and his punishment would not be swift. It would be slow, drawn out, and filled with loss. Back in Ithaca, time passed like a cold wind. Penelope, Odysseus's wife, remained faithful, but her house was filled with suitors who believed her husband to be dead. They pressed her to choose a new king, to let go of a past that seemed more myth than memory. Telemachus, their son, grew up with stories of a father he barely remembered. Every day he looked out to sea, wondering if the shape on the horizon might be his father's ship. Odysseus did not suffer alone. His absence created a void, and that void was slowly being filled by doubt, fear, and despair. The stakes of this journey were no longer just survival. It was about returning to the people who still held on to hope. It was about reclaiming a home at risk of being lost. Poseidon was not done, not by far. But even as the god unleashed his fury, Odysseus's will to return burned brighter. This was not just a tale of monsters and magic. It was the story of a man fighting the gods for the right to go home. Odysseus's journey was filled with trials that tested not only his strength, but his mind and soul. After escaping the wrath of Poseidon's son, he and his crew faced dangers that seemed pulled from the edges of nightmare and myth. Each challenge was more than just a battle. It was a lesson, a test of endurance, and a struggle to hold on to their humanity. The first stop was the land of the Lotus Eaters. The people there offered Odysseus's men a strange fruit called the lotus. Those who ate it forgot everything: home, family, and purpose. They lost all desire to leave, becoming prisoners of their own forgetfulness. Odysseus had to drag his own men away from this peaceful trap, reminding them that forgetting meant death. This was a danger far subtler than monsters, the danger of losing oneself. Next came another encounter with the brutal Cyclops, Polyphemus. We already know how Odysseus's cunning blinded the giant, but the consequences of that act haunted him. Polyphemus's father, Poseidon, made sure of it. The episode was a reminder that wit and strength alone could not guarantee safety when gods were involved. After escaping the Cyclops, Odysseus arrived at the island of Aeolus, the keeper of winds. Aeolus gifted Odysseus a bag containing all the winds except the one that would take him home. Just as Ithaca was within sight, curiosity and greed took hold of his men. Believing the bag held treasure, they opened it, releasing a storm that blew their ship far away from home once again. This moment showed how fragile hope could be when trust is lost. The journey took a darker turn when Odysseus sailed near the land of the Laestrygonians, enormous cannibal giants. These terrifying beings destroyed almost the entire fleet, smashing ships and devouring men. Only Odysseus's ship survived. This brutal attack was a harsh reminder of the dangers lurking in unknown lands. Then came Circe, a powerful witch who turned men into pigs. Odysseus's men fell victim to her magic, but with help from the god Hermes, Odysseus resisted her spells. Impressed by his bravery and cunning, Circe reversed the magic and offered them shelter. For a year, Odysseus and his crew stayed, resting and learning from her. Circe represented both danger and sanctuary, a complex figure who challenged Odysseus's leadership. Knowing that the journey home would not end there, Odysseus traveled to the underworld. There, he met the spirits of the dead and sought prophecies from the blind seer Tiresias. He learned chilling truths about his future and the dangers yet to come. More than warnings, the underworld visit was deeply emotional. Odysseus saw the ghost of his mother and spoke to fallen comrades. It was a moment of reflection on life, death, and the cost of his long voyage. Back at sea, Odysseus faced the deadly Sirens, whose enchanting songs lured sailors to their doom. To survive, he had himself tied to the mast of his ship, while his crew blocked their ears with beeswax. The Sirens' call was a test of self-control and discipline. The journey then led him through a narrow strait guarded by two monsters, Scylla, a six-headed beast that snatched men from ships, and Charybdis, a whirlpool that could swallow entire vessels. Odysseus made the agonizing choice to lose only a few men to Scylla, rather than risk the entire ship to Charybdis. It was a desperate moment of survival and sacrifice. Finally, the crew landed on the island of Helios, the sun god, who kept sacred cattle. Despite warnings, the men, driven by hunger and desperation, slaughtered the cattle. This final act of disobedience brought the wrath of the gods down upon them. Zeus sent a storm that destroyed their ship and killed every man except Odysseus. These legendary adventures shaped the epic tale, revealing Odysseus not just as a hero, but as a man who faced temptation, loss, and impossible choices. Each event added layers to his character and to the timeless story of the Odyssey. After years of hardship, loss, and countless adventures, Odysseus finally reached the shores of his homeland, Ithaca. But returning home was far from simple. The kingdom he had left was overrun by suitors' men who believed Odysseus was dead and now vied for his wife Penelope's hand, squandering his wealth and disrespecting his household. To reclaim what was his and test the loyalty of those around him, Odysseus returned in disguise. He dressed as a beggar, hiding his true identity beneath tattered clothes and grime, blending in with those who had forgotten his name. This careful deception was his first step toward justice. Penelope, Odysseus's wife, was no ordinary woman. For 20 years she had waited, cleverly fending off the suitors with her intelligence and resolve. One of her most famous tricks was weaving a shroud for her father-in-law by day and secretly unraveling it by night. This ruse delayed her remarriage, buying time for Odysseus's return. Penelope's loyalty was tested repeatedly, but she never gave up hope. Her faithfulness and wit made her a true partner to Odysseus, embodying strength in a world dominated by power struggles and uncertainty. Odysseus did not reveal himself until the right moment. Once he assessed who among the suitors could be trusted and saw how much disorder they had brought to his home, he planned a brutal, calculated revenge. With the help of his son Telemachus and a few loyal servants, he launched a deadly attack. The suitors were caught off guard, their arrogance and disrespect turning into panic. The fight was savage and relentless. Odysseus's skill as a warrior and leader became clear as he picked them off one by one. This was not a simple battle. It was the restoration of order through justice and retribution. The suitor slaughter marked the climax of Odysseus's journey, a violent yet necessary act to reclaim his home and honor. It was a turning point where years of suffering and endurance culminated in a fierce assertion of his rightful place. But it was also deeply personal. Each suitor represented a betrayal of trust and the threat of losing everything Odysseus cherished. After the suitors were defeated, peace slowly returned to Ithaca. Odysseus revealed himself to Penelope, who tested him with questions only her husband would know. Their reunion was filled with emotion relief, joy, and the rekindling of love. It was the end of a long separation and the beginning of healing for a household torn apart by absence and chaos. Odysseus's journey had come full circle. From a man cursed and wandering, he became a king restored, a husband reunited, and a father present once more. The trials he endured shaped him, but his home and family gave meaning to all his struggles. Ithaca was more than a place. It was the heart of his story, a symbol of hope, resilience, and the power of loyalty. Odysseus' story is much more than a thrilling adventure or a tale of gods and monsters. At its core, the Odyssey is about the human struggle. It explores profound themes that resonate with us even today. Central to the story is the search for identity. Odysseus is not just a warrior or a king. He is a man trying to remember who he is after years of hardship and transformation. His journey is as much about rediscovering himself as it is about returning home. This struggle reflects the universal human experience of trying to find our place in the world, especially after facing challenges that test our spirit. The theme of home is powerful throughout the epic. Ithaca represents safety, belonging, and love. Odysseus' desire to return is a longing for peace after chaos. This longing connects deeply with anyone who has ever been away from what they hold dear. But the Odyssey also shows that home is not just a physical place. It is where our identity and relationships live. This makes the journey more than a return. It is a quest for restoration, for healing what has been broken by time and distance. Temptation is another critical theme in the Odyssey. From the lotus eaters who offer forgetfulness to the seductive Circe and the dangerous Sirens, Odysseus faces moments where giving in could mean losing everything. These temptations symbolize the distractions and pitfalls that everyone encounters on their path in life. The story warns that resilience and self-control are necessary to overcome these trials, a lesson that remains relevant in any age. Suffering is woven into every step of Odysseus' journey. The pain of loss, separation, and the threat of death weigh heavily on him. But it is through suffering that the hero grows. His endurance shapes him, proving that hardship can lead to wisdom and strength. This journey from suffering to redemption offers hope to all who face their own battles. It teaches that suffering, though difficult, can be a path toward greater understanding and transformation. The Odyssey's themes are timeless because they mirror the resilience of the human spirit. People across centuries and cultures have found something deeply relatable in Odysseus' story. The epic does not offer easy answers, but it shows that life's challenges are part of what makes us who we are. This honesty and depth are why the Odyssey remains relevant thousands of years after it was first told. The influence of the Odyssey extends far beyond ancient Greece. Its stories and characters have inspired countless books, films, and video games. Modern works like the Percy Jackson series borrow heavily from Homer's myths, bringing these ancient tales to new generations with fresh energy and adventure. The Witcher, a popular video game and TV series, draws on themes of destiny, survival, and moral complexity, echoing the struggles faced by Odysseus. Even movies like O Brother, Where Art Thou? Directly adapt the Odyssey's plot, showing how this ancient tale can fit into completely different settings and cultures while still keeping its core themes intact. The epic's influence shows that its messages about human nature are universal, crossing boundaries of time and geography. The Odyssey's legacy is not just in its stories, but in its ability to connect with people on a deeply emotional level. It reminds us that life is a journey filled with challenges, but with courage, cleverness, and hope, we can find our way. Odysseus' tale invites us to reflect on our own struggles and triumphs, making the epic a living story that continues to inspire and teach. In the end, the Odyssey is more than just a classic. It is a mirror, held up to humanity itself, a story about who we are, what we endure, and how we find our way back home. Odysseus was not just a hero of strength or skill. He was a survivor. Throughout his long and treacherous journey, he faced God's wrath, deadly monsters, and countless temptations. Yet it was his resilience, intelligence, and unwavering desire to return home that defined him. His story is more than an ancient epic. It is a timeless reflection of the human spirit's ability to endure hardship and never give up. That is why the tale of Odysseus still echoes across the centuries, inspiring readers, storytellers, and dreamers everywhere. The Odyssey teaches us that life's greatest challenges do not come from brute force alone, but from the courage to keep moving forward despite the odds. Odysseus' struggles remind us all that survival is about more than just living. It is about growing stronger through every trial and holding on to hope even when the path seems impossible. His journey invites us to reflect on our own lives, our own challenges, and the moments when we must be clever, brave, and patient. Now, I want to hear from you. What part of the Odyssey stuck with you the most? Was it the blinding of the Cyclops, the haunting songs of the Sirens, or Penelope's loyal wait? Or maybe it was the underworld visit, the fierce battle back in Ithaca, or the lessons about pride and humility. Comment below and share your thoughts. I read every single one and love hearing your insights. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the greatest stories ever told, please make sure to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more epic mythology content every single week. Turn on notifications so you never miss an adventure from the world's most fascinating myths and legends. Thank you so much for watching and being part of this incredible journey through the Odyssey. Remember, stories like these remind us to stay curious about the past, the present, and the mysteries that connect us all. Stay curious.